Hello, and a very warm welcome to the Journey Journals. My name is Gaia from Life of Gaia, and today we are going to be exploring the intersection between mindfulness and spirituality. And I'm absolutely delighted to have a very special guest with me here today. Her name is Juliana Moss. Now, Juliana is a mindfulness meditation teacher. She is also a Reiki practitioner, and she is also a plant medicine facilitator and guide. Now, not only does she help people through plant medicine journeys, but she also helps in the process of integration and integrating plant medicine ceremonies through the lens of mindfulness and ancestral healing. A warm welcome to you, Juliana.
Thank you, Gaia. I'm really delighted to be sharing this space with you today.
Likewise. Now, as we said together, we're going to go on a journey into mindfulness and spirituality and explore that intersection. And Juliana's going to help us gain a better understanding of how we can use mindfulness to foster a more profound connection with our inner self. She's also going to share a lot of tips and routines around mindfulness. So I would love to jump right in and get started, Juliana. And I wanted to ask you if you could explain to us, just in very simple terms, what is mindfulness and how is it connected to spiritual growth?
Yeah, Gaia. So mindfulness, what mindfulness does is that it teaches us a special way of paying attention to our experiences. It's an attention that looks how our internal world is interacting with that external world. And this special way of paying attention, it's an attention that is open, it's sharp, but it's curious and it's non-judgmental. And this specific way of paying attention increases our capacity of awareness. Mindfulness clearly sends that space between our awareness, this open, non-judgmental space that we all have, and what this sense of self will call the I. So we become familiar with that space between the experience that we're having and the one that we call the I that is having the experience. And that space is just pure consciousness. So one of the gifts that mindfulness gives us is that we stop identifying so strongly with our experiences. We don't take everything so personal. And we create the capacity to observe what really is happening internally. And by doing that, we find that internal sense of groundedness, of centeredness in ourselves that is not dependent on outside experiences.
Thanks, Juliana. And I believe that there are some certain fundamental principles that are very specific to mindfulness. Would you mind telling us a little bit about those and how they can be sort of applied to, a spiritual journey in general?
Yeah, mindfulness looks fundamentally at four things. Mindfulness looks at body sensations because emotions can be felt in a very physical way in the body. It looks at our emotions, looks at our thoughts. It looks at what quality of thoughts we are producing at a specific moment, and looks at the beliefs regarding this given experience or these thoughts. And it helps us enhance our journey in many ways, like teaches us how to be in the present moment. It teaches us not to dwell in the past or be constantly worrying about the future. So we start clearly seeing how the present moment is all there is. With this type of observation that is non-judgmental, we learn to not label experiences as good or bad, but simply as this is what it is at the present moment. And this is very helpful to embrace our experience in a very equanimous and compassionate way. And that way, we start kind of integrating and understanding what this all duality means. We create resilience and a sense of groundingness and centeredness that gives us a place of belonging to this reality, to this experience. Spirituality is very much for me this sense of longing, to long to the divine. So if we find a place of belonging, we don't need to long so much on the outside to fulfill this longing. Mindfulness also teaches us to let go of attachments to thoughts, to emotions, to expected outcomes, because it teaches us very clearly impermanence. And what impermanence is that is showing us that nothing lasts forever. So this understanding helps us release the grip of control. We release the grip of control, we can experience a happier, a more peaceful life, because it's teaching us in a way to relax in that uncertainty. So we learn to trust. It also shows us how exhausting is the idea of constantly be striving or reaching for something or somewhere. And it actually teaches us to recognize that the path to get to any destination, which really there is none, but actually the path is the way. So we start enjoying, life as it is and enjoying that path. It also teaches us breath awareness, which uses the breath to anchor ourselves to the present moment. And as we practice with breath awareness, shows us this interconnectedness of life. The breath can be a really, really great teacher. And mindfulness encourages self-compassion, which helps us start creating a very intimate relationship within ourselves, where we can rely on our internal resources instead of trying to find comfort outside of ourselves. There is a expression that is quite common that says that to know ourselves is to know God. So this is the gift that mindfulness gives us to really start learning who we are.
That's beautiful, Juliana. And I love what you said about impermanence, and that sentence that you said about relaxing into the uncertainty. I think it's so important, and we get so wrapped up in the belief that, we're going to be here forever, and that, life is going to continue forever. But the statement of relaxing into the uncertainty is beautiful. There's a lot of peace around that. I wanted to ask about your particular journey of mindfulness and how, your spiritual practice has evolved over the years, and if you can share any particular personal experiences around your journey.
Definitely, mindfulness has changed my life. In my experience, and something mindfulness has taught me, is that the point of spirituality is to have a happy, loving life full of connection. Spirituality for me is all about connection to the divine, if you want to call it that way, and the understanding that that divine is in everything and it's here now in this reality. I used to think that spirituality was something outside of myself, but I have changed my mind. And I think that by actually embracing this life here, now, today, is what really the goal is. That through this life and through this experience, let's say God gets to experience. So I have been able to create a personal relationship with my fears, with my hopes, with my desires. I have been able to get in touch with my needs, to understand what is self-love, and not to look for comfort outside, and to start really looking inside and understand what that means, because it wasn't so palpable for me for a very long time. With mindfulness, I have learned to forgive myself and approach myself without such a sharp judgment. I had always tended others with kindness, but not me. I thought I did, but not really, like I would have conversations with myself, like, why are you not there yet? What's wrong with you? Maybe if you were not so shy, maybe if you were more confident, and this kind of conversations that were quite harmful. So mindfulness has brought me in to take care of myself. And I believe that when there is abundance of self-love, we can pour this love into others, and that is true connection.
Beautiful. Juliana, I wanted to circle back for a second and go back to the impermanence of things. Now, mindfulness and spirituality both involve, seeking meaning and finding purpose in life in general, which is, something that everyone seems to be on the search for these days. And there's always the challenge of finding purpose and meaning within the impermanence, right? Which seems to always be the challenge. And I wanted to ask how you integrate these two things into your life.
When I think about sense of purpose, sense of purpose in life, I feel that many times it's like we're looking for something different of what we're having at the moment, or what is present at the moment for us. We might not be happy with our job. We might not be fulfilled in any other aspect of life, or maybe, we have lost a sense of purpose because of some kind of tragedy. But what if we don't see purpose as a destination and not something that we need to get to? One thing that mindfulness focuses on is on that present moment. And it shows us how within the present is the way that we can find joy and happiness. Because the past is gone, the future is not here. So the only way that we can fulfill our lives is in this present moment. So can we start living the present with a sense of purpose, with what's happening today, here, now? Let's say, like, I decide this morning to wake up and purposely, live this day. What if I decide to have my breakfast and purposely enjoy the food that I'm eating that is nurturing me and it's giving me so many nutrients? Or if I just go and pick up my children at school, can I make the intention to fully engage in that moment with that sense of purpose? What if I just purposely create a way today to find purpose in the job that I have, in what I am doing? Why am I here in this job? So it's kind of like a switch of mind frame. I believe that purpose is inviting us to fully be participating day to day in our life. And it's not something that I need to reach or get to. Like, for example, today I'm a mindfulness teacher, but maybe in 10 years from today, my purpose is going to be something else. But today, this is what it feels like it is. And I work, mindfully and intensely, to fulfill this sense of purpose that I have right now, that it is in front of me. I think that way of looking at life with that sense of purpose on everything that we're doing and not a destination, it actually has directed my energy to do activities that fulfill my passion. And I think that the point of mindfulness is to actually, embrace that reality and find that sense of purpose in whatever we do on a day-to-day, living.
And on staying in the present moment and, looking at, I loved what you mentioned earlier about self-compassion and developing that. I wanted to talk about how you purposefully, develop self-compassion and empathy, in the present, and, sort of develop that sense of compassion with yourself as opposed to finding comfort outside of yourself, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned empathy and compassion, and there is a difference between empathy and compassion, or self-compassion in general, because empathy is when we feel the pain of others, and compassion or self-compassion is when we feel the pain of others and we want to do something about that pain. So that's the big difference between one and the other. So looking at self-compassion would be to want to alleviate my own pain and to actually try to do something about it. One thing that happens is that when we're being empathic, it's important to create self-boundaries so we don't get overwhelmed by the pain of others. With these boundaries, we're actually able to discern which one is my pain and which one belongs to somebody else. And this is an action of self-compassion and compassion to others, because if I get carried away by the pain of other, I will not be able to be there, fully there, helping. But when I have these boundaries, I will still be able to feel the pain, but I would have enough energy to be able to be there, of help.
And Juliana, I'd love to talk about non-judgmental awareness too. I know it's very challenging for me. I've done things like 10 days of Vipassana silent meditation, and, had to deal with my judgments up close and personal. And I have to say, I definitely got a little bit better at it after 10 days of sitting in silence, but it's still very challenging to, observe things with non-judgmental awareness. I wanted to hear what you had to say about that in relationship to mindfulness.
Yeah, I think when we approach our experience with this non-judgmental awareness, and it has an ingredient of curiosity. to what it is happening. And this sense of curiosity kind of opens the door to all this world of possibilities. We're very limited in our perspectives, you know. We can both have a very different perspective within the same experience. We can both be watching the rain, and for you might be like, oh, my day is ruined, and for me might be I'm having a beautiful cup of tea and how I feel delicious this day to be. So we have very different perspectives looking at the same experience. So when I approach any experience with this quality of curiosity and openness, which are the antidotes for judgment, it's a kind of like a switch of mind frame. Instead of like, I'm going to judge the situation, but I am actually going to be open and curious about what it is happening here at this moment. I am going to be able to see different angles. I'm going to be able to see different perspectives, different approaches. And when I realize maybe that my truth is not necessarily the truth of others, or maybe that my beliefs on a certain situation or my thoughts are not necessarily the beliefs or the experiences that other people may have. When I approach the situations with this curious quality, life becomes like a playground of possibilities. So it opens up to connection with others. We start creating better relationships. We open up to different possibilities and different solutions, and approaching situations with this attitude helps life becomes richer.
Yeah, and I feel like it also opens you up to the possibility of surprise and awe in life, and helps you have a completely different experience. Speaking of experiences, what role does ego play in all of this? The all-pervasive ego, and how can mindfulness help us detach from our ego?
It's interesting how in spirituality, in spiritual communities, we speak about this death of the ego. Believe me, I have tried to murder my ego quite a few times. But the ego is really a very important part of our being, you know. What do you think would happen to the ego if he or she, however we label it, knows that we're trying to kill it, that we're trying to suppress it? If I were to be the ego, I would be freaking out, right? I believe that the ego does not need to be eliminated, but maybe what the ego needs is to be embraced. Our ego has been an essential part of our evolution. The ego is the one that helps us change, helps us grow, helps us achieve. So I think that what the ego needs is to be heard and understood. Maybe what it needs is just to be reparented. They say that the ego has the personality of a 5-year-old. And many, many times what's happening is that the ego is scared, that maybe the ego needs to be acknowledged. Maybe at times the ego does not feel seen. And when you ignore a child, because we're saying it has the personality of a 5-year-old, when you ignore a child, when you don't listen to the needs of this child, well, this child is going to start acting up. But if we actually start listening to this child, if we actually start playing with the child, if we start actually sending a lot of love to this child, the child will feel safe and it might actually stop acting up.
So really to turn it into sort of more a companion and a friend as opposed to an enemy, and sort of embrace it and, foster collaboration instead of, going against each other the whole time. Now, speaking of parenting, I know that you are a mom. You also have a very busy job. You have a very busy business. You're always going on all cylinders all the time. And I wanted to address the sort of world that we live in and all the distractions that we met with on a daily basis, and what you do to sort of create moments of mindfulness during your day within all the distractions.
Yeah, it's interesting, because we live in this world that, we need to multitask and do so many things at the same time. But one of the things that mindfulness uses as an exercise, meditation, we use the breath as an anchor to the present moment. And what happens is that it trains us to, when our mind gets distracted, which is normal, it helps us redirect the mind to what it is doing at that present moment, which it is obviously at that moment meditating. So this exercise is really helpful to concentrate the mind, teach the mind not to be floating around so much as it does, but actually to gives us this capacity of redirecting our mind. So we can transfer that into the day-to-day activities. When we are all over the place and we feel that, we have phone calls and we have emails to answer and we have to pick up our children, maybe just by have been practicing with our breath, we're training our mind to be able to hold a little bit steadier at one activity at a time. The practice of meditation helps us do that. And it will transfer into the day-to-day activities. When I am in my computer working, it will transfer into this knowing that I'm just going to sit for a moment in my computer and finish this page that I'm going to do. And I know I have 20 million other things to do, but I can do one at a time. One practice that I do in the morning is to write down everything that I have to do during the day. And I just go scratching one thing at a time. I make an order of most urgent and what can wait a little bit. Maybe I leave that for the end of the day, but I have this purpose of just finishing that activity that I started. And this can only be achieved by practicing with the breath, because it's going to give us this capacity of hold our minds steadier for longer periods of time in one activity.
That's a great suggestion. Do you have any book recommendations or videos that people could watch, or any suggestions to people starting out with mindfulness?
Yeah, sure. I love to watch, which I'm sure you can find anywhere on YouTube or, just Google, any interviews or any seminars by Pema Chodron. She's a wonderful Tibetan monastic, and I love her videos because she explains really in a very simple way these concepts of mindfulness. I love how she, the way that she does her teachings. And there are several books. One that I love that is The Body Keeps the Score by Dr. Van der Kool. That's a great book. My teacher, Jack Kornfield, has this book that is called The Wise Heart, which is a very wide explanation of mindfulness. So it can show you as you read it everything that mindfulness entitles. There's another book he passed away a few years ago, Thich Nhat Hanh, called The Art of Living. I like that book as well. In terms of compassion, there is Radical Compassion by Tara Brach. It's a great book. Say What You Mean by Joseph Goldstein. It's on my list. And there is one that is practical to learn to live with this impermanence and that we spoke about. And it's by David Riccio, which is called The 5 Things We Can't Change. Yeah, that would be my recommendation. You have a pretty good set of books there.
Those are great recommendations. I'm also a big fan of Pema Chodron, and I'm very curious to read those last 2 books that you suggested about impermanence, and the other one was about saying what you mean. They both sound fascinating. Thank you for the recommendations, Juliana. One last question. What is your message around mindfulness to the world?
Mindfulness can be a very powerful tool. It can help us enhance our spiritual journey. With mindfulness, what we're doing is that we're cultivating self-awareness. We can really see what we are attaching to, what are we rejecting, so we can understand a little bit better our emotions. We can understand much better our patterns of thought, our reactions. And as we do that, we learn to hold all these things very kindly without getting carried away by them. So we can cultivate a deeper connection within ourselves. And that brings us to a deeper connection with others, with the universe in general. Mindfulness makes us feel connected. It makes us realize that we belong. It makes us understand that we have a place in this universe, and as small as it might be, is our place, and it's needed, and it's beautiful.
Juliana, speaking of beauty, I want to thank you for what has been a masterclass for me in being in the present moment, being with you here today. I've said this before in other interviews. I feel it's such a gift to be able to spend this one-on-one time, undistracted and, uninterrupted with this person. I end up learning so much, and I've learned so much from you today. And I also want to acknowledge you for absolutely everything that you do in the world, for being an amazing mother, for being a great partner, and for your constant curiosity. And you are always learning something, you are always deepening your knowledge, you are always adding other facets to it, which I think is incredible, because it all sort of feeds into the stand that you are for people, particularly in plant medicine facilitation, all of that. And I love the peaceful energy that you have brought to the interview. Thank you for that.
No, those words touch my heart, Gaia. You have a very special space in my heart. You know, we have had a close relationship for a very long time. So it's really delightful just to see your work and this space where you're putting so much knowledge in one space. And I'm honored to be here with you and to be able to share a little bit of my experience in this space. So I really appreciate it and appreciate everything that you do. Thank you.
Absolutely, likewise. And speaking of sharing information, Juliana and I are not quite done yet, because we are going to be recording several other interviews on topics that are absolutely fascinating to me. So I encourage you to like, comment, share this particular interview. And if you have comments or questions for Juliana, we'll put her link at the bottom. I encourage you to get in touch with her. She's a wealth of information and resources. And the upcoming interviews that we plan to record together, one is going to be practical exercises on mindfulness. Juliana's going to walk us through them. And then 2, an interview on mindfulness and the connection between mindfulness and plant medicine. So plant medicine such as ayahuasca, psilocybin, San Pedro. And then the 3rd one, which I absolutely cannot wait for, is going to be an interview around mindfulness and family constellations. And being from South Africa, that's a topic that is near and dear to my heart. So I'm very much looking forward to those. And again, please like and subscribe and follow us for more. Thank you.